I am forced to acknowledge that indeed region, religion, tribe, and tongue are and will continue to be the key ingredients in our nation's politics until we do away with the geriatrics who have a chokehold on our country. A few weeks ago, I had warned that a group of mostly old former political office holders were executing a carefully orchestrated agenda to take over the ADC to prosecute Atiku Abubakar's presidential ambition come 2027. I also warned that PeterObi and other presidential hopefuls in this coalition of geriatrics were being duped as Atiku's men had been carefully positioned to take over the ADC party structure across the country. Today, I have been proven right as former Governor Obi and his people now realize that this coalition is indeed a one-man power grab. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, a man who claims affinity and friendship with the South, does not believe any Southerner deserves to be president of Nigeria. Former Presidents Obasanjo and Jonathan are alive to attest to this uncomfortable truth. In their desperation to hijack the ADC, they deliberately perpetrated fraud, of which I now present evidence to you today. I have here before you terms of settlement entered as judgment in the Court of Appeal of Nigeria, holding at Port Harcourt, with appeal number CAPH 2252023, between the ADC, Chief Rafunsu, Engineer Eddie Lawrence as appellants, and some of the ADC state chairmen as respondents. What is the fraud, you may ask? To use the ADC, they needed to free it of all legal encumbrances, such as those challenging Rafunsu's fraudulent claim to the chairmanship of the party. And so, they forged signatures of some of the chairmen who were not interested in the sale of the party and presented it to the court as terms of settlement, which the Court of Appeal adopted as judgment. I have here copies of said judgments and international passport copies of the chairmen whose signatures were forged. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, please compare the signature specimens. Our lawyers have dispatched petitions to the appropriate law enforcement agencies on this. As if this was not bad enough, we all watched almost 2 months ago the comedic performance of Rafunsu as he anointed David Mark as chairman of the ADC, and at the same time presented him with a membership card of our party. I again warned Nigerians that this was fraud being perpetrated in broad daylight, as Nwosu had no legal mandate to anoint or appoint a chairman for our party. Sections of the media subsequently addressed David Mark as chairman of the ADC, even though they knew it was constitutionally impossible for this to be so. But again, this is Nigeria, where anything is possible. The same media less than 10 days ago covered and reported a supposed NEC meeting where the same David Mark was again appointed or anointed as chairman of the ADC. So, what are we to believe? When did former Senate President David Mark become the chairman of the ADC? Here is a copy of a letter written to INEC on the 29th of July 2025, wherein the same Rafunsu, who weeks before this had presented David Mark to the world as the new chairman of our party, is still signing his signature as national chairman of the ADC. What a joke. Nigerians are all watching the live coverage of a fraud so monumental and yet so stupid that it beggars belief. These men are following the law to correct their illegalities in full view of Nigerians, INEC, and the media. But nobody's asking questions because we're supposed to be a nation of anything goes. What is the fallout of all these? What is the place of region, religion, and tribe, and even tongue in all of this? Nigerians, please listen to me loud and clear. Atiku Abubakar and a few northern elites who have for decades held political power but did nothing, absolutely nothing, to alleviate the under-education and attendant impoverishment in northern Nigeria for political purposes are at it again. They have armed the weapons of region religion, tongue, tribe, and poverty as they convince millions of poor Northerners that a Southern President Tinubu hates them and is the cause of their poverty. On a daily basis, they are spreading deliberate falsehoods against not only President Tinubu, but against all potential Southern aspirants like myself for the office of president. Peter Obi has been told in very clear terms that he will never get Northern votes as an Igbo man, and as such, he should accept to be Atiku's running mate. In order to weaken the South, they have now drafted in former President Jonathan into the race, who is alleged to be offering Peter Obi the position of coordinating minister of the economy for him to support his ambition. In all this, Nigerians are the losers because meritocracy, which can only thrive when ceteris paribus is in play, has been thrown out of the door because of a truth: ceteris paribus doesn't exist in the Nigerian ecosystem. Sadly, I am now here before you championing the cause of a Southern presidency, a notion that before now was totally against all I believed in.
All right, hello. Thank you for joining me right here on Stick Media. I'm sure you just finished watching Dumedi Kachiko's video where he's alleging that there's a deliberate plan to confuse Peter Obi, that the North always has this attitude of like, without them, the Southern candidates do not have any possibility. The whole idea putting up the ADCs basically to accomplish the presidential ambition of Atiku Abubakar. As it stands now, there's actually some leadership tussle. You do know that the situation is because Atiku Abubakar was meant to collect his membership card. There was supposed to be a processing around it in terms of like something of grandeur around him identifying with the ADC officially, but there was a halt to it. And a source said one of the reasons is because that there are some Obedients who feel like Atiku Abubakar's persons want to just take over the party and sideline them. Well, we don't know how true that is. I've just known that these individuals have been running their own race. Atiku hasn't come out yet, but his body language and his movement indicates that they've been working, all right, to get some certain candidates to believe in the ADC. There are also talks that they also want some former governors who are supposedly bigwigs to join the ADC. Bolaji Abdullahi, however, denied all of this. He's a publicity secretary of the ADC. He denied all of this. But the truth is, when will the ADC put their acts together? If you want to have a coalition like what happened in the time of now President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2015, when there was one person everybody rallied around, why can't you do that? Now is the time of the South. Is Atiku waiting for the last minute to say whom he's going to throw his hat on the race with or for? Well, Amici has declared that there's going to be an open primary and said that if Peter Obi is popular as he claims, or as a lot of people are claiming, yeah, let him come and do his thing, throw his hat in the race, try to influence those in the party, and possibly turn up. The agreement is anybody who emerges as the winner in that primary will definitely be supported by everybody. But there are fears that if the obedient movement do not really have a strong stake in the ADC, that a certain individual may actually emerge. Well, we don't know what the guideline of the ADC will be when it's time for the primary. We don't know what the modus operandi will be for conducting the primary. Some people are advising Peter Obi to leave the ADC. Where do you want him to join? He should go back and stay on with the Labour Party despite what is going on. Well, let's just say with what INEC did recently, there's a strong chance that Peter Obi may decide to continue with the Labour Party. He's still part of them anyway. He hasn't come out to say he's with anybody else. He's still with the Labour Party. But the sooner he starts to put things in together beyond the obedient movement, the better for him. And the key states that he lost in 2023, I do hope that he's making inroads in them. As for Rotimi Amici, well, a couple of people do not trust what he said because he just finished working with the previous administration of Muhammadu Buhari, a party that he once belonged to, contested along President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So how would anybody trust somebody who was just part of a system that he's trying to fight against and did not condemn? How come? So it's almost like you're part of a system. It's just that the person in charge of that system is not your principal. So when your principal is no longer there, you're now fighting the system. Then as for El-Rufai, the guy really needs to do what you consider bring down President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ensure that he doesn't come back the second term. I don't know how that's going to be possible. But hey, all of these political aspirants, if you know that you want to unseat Tinubu, I don't know how you're looking now, but you're not looking formidable. That's just it. However, what do you think? Do you have a different opinion? What do maybe Kachiko said there? Is that true? Do you agree that Atiku is either strategizing to create that sense of diversion or distraction, or his intention truly is to use the ADC platform to declare for himself as a presidential aspirant for 2027, despite the gentleman agreement that it is a time of the South? And then with some audios and testimonials as to how 2023 went and that Peter Obi won the elections. A lot needs to be learned from the previous election for those who are in the opposition right now. As the table is for politics, there's no guarantee for anything. So every day is a fight. The current All Progressives Congress, they're not relaxing. They're working so hard and they're utilizing every means to ensure that the coalition and any form of opposition does not have an upper hand. At this moment, Tajuddin Abbas was sent to go to Bauchi to resolve the conflict between some APC members there. So all the areas, all the states where there are issues amongst them, they're trying to resolve those issues so everyone can come up with a unified voice. I think the ADC needs to do the same thing. Everybody's supposed to be singing one voice. They're supposed to be mobilizing and not trying to pick one person or the other or sound like the house is not yet in order. Why come up with a coalition if you're not sure of what you want? So your people are waiting for you and you better be fast. Otherwise, you're going to lose their attention. You're going to lose their adrenaline. You're going to lose their impulse. Well, some obedience have said that wherever Peter Obi goes, they go. So what if Peter Obi joins APC? Would you go along with him? I'd like to know what you think in the comment section. Bye for now. Make sure you subscribe. Don't forget.